Andrey Antonovich Grechko, Marshal of the Soviet Union, twice Hero of the Soviet Union, was the Minister of Defense of the Soviet Union and the Commander-in-Chief of the Soviet forces in Germany. He was a well-known party and state figure. Greetings, this is our channel. Today, we will tell you the life story of Andrey Antonovich Grechko. Before watching, please subscribe to the channel and give a like. Enjoy the viewing. Andrey Antonovich Grechko, whose family lived in the Rostov region in a small village, Golodovki, was born on October 17, 1903. Now, this place is the village of Kybyshevo. His mother, Olga Karpovna, gave birth to 14 children, and Andrey Antonovich was the 13th. His father, Anton Vasilyevic, was a simple peasant, but since the family was very large and resources were scarce, he also worked as a physical education teacher in a local school. From childhood, Andrey Antonovich was very clever and restless. The villagers remembered that he was not obedient and often acted contrary to the wishes of his parents. Since childhood, Andrey Antonovich had a good imagination, and his favorite game was playing soldiers. Once, Andrey decided to play with weapons without permission and miraculously survived. His father often told his sons about military service, and Andrey listened with great interest. These stories may have influenced his later decision about his life's path. In 1919, the Bolsheviks began their offensive on Rostov, and Andrey first saw the Red Army soldiers enter the village. The local residents went out to greet them, and he watched in admiration and envy. Andrey saw that among them were also his 16-year-old peers. The army urgently needed to deliver ammunition, so the Red Army soldiers took all the horses from the village. Andrey, with his horse, carried ammunition to Rostov. There, he persuaded Stepan Vasilenko, the squadron commander, to take him into service. Thus, he received his uniform, weapons, and joined the army. After the liberation of Rostov, Andrey returned to the village to visit his family. He told his relatives that he had become a soldier, and his father approved of his decision. Throughout the Civil War, future Marshal Grechko, whose family supported him in his desire to pursue a military career, fought as a private soldier. He completed command courses in Krasnodar, and in 1926, he began studying at the cavalry school, graduating successfully. He was entrusted with commanding a platoon and later a squadron in the 1st Separate Cavalry Brigade. In 1938, Andrey Antonovich Grechko became the chief of staff of a special cavalry division, Alibaba, and in the following year, he defended western Ukraine and Belarus from the Germans to prevent Germany from securing these territories. When the Great Patriotic War began, Andrey Antonovich was still studying at the General Staff Academy and was taking his final exams in June 1941. Grechko understood that the USSR was in serious danger. 3 days later, war broke out, and he immediately wanted to go to the front lines. However, only a few of his fellow students were sent to the front. Future Marshal Grechko, whose biography was closely tied to military service, was sent to the General Staff Directorate. Andrey Antonovich was confused. He understood the importance of this assignment, but he desperately wanted to get to the front. He started looking for ways to fulfill his desire, and as a result, he served in the General Staff for only 12 days. The General Staff worked day and night, and if they managed to sleep, it was only at their workplaces. The situation at the front was rapidly changing, and sometimes it was almost impossible to follow the pace of events. The information coming into the General Staff was often fragmented, sometimes even contradictory. Grechko worked on the operational map of the situation. At first, Andrey Antonovich was angry at working in the staff because he wanted to be in the midst of action. Only when he finally got to the front did he realize how hard it was to navigate the situation at the front and the responsibility that rested on the staff workers. It was very difficult to communicate accurate information, and it had to be sent upwards. Eventually, after much thought, Grechko asked the People's Commissar Timoshenko to be sent to the front. Shortly thereafter, Grechko was appointed the commander of a cavalry division and sent to Kharkov to form the 34th Cavalry Division. The first days on the front were the hardest for Andrey Antonovich. The practice of warfare was very different from the theoretical knowledge taught in peacetime. Grechko had to adapt to the circumstances immediately and in the shortest time possible. There was a shortage of ammunition, and there was nothing to stop even infantry, let alone tanks. The higher command stayed silent and simply ordered the troops to advance and defeat the Germans. Grechko's division fought in these nightmarish conditions, but by 1941, the Red Army began to achieve victories. That year, Grechko already commanded the 5th Cavalry Corps, which liberated Barvenkovo in 1942 after many successful battles. Later, Andrey Antonovich took command of the 12th Army, which defended Voroshilov and the Brody direction. In the fall of 1942, Grechko became the commander of the 47th Army defending the Black Sea coast. Later, he commanded the 18th Army, which fought in the Tuapse direction. After the victory at Stalingrad in 1943, Grechko became the commander of the 56th Army. On October 9th, he was the first to report to the General Staff about the liberation of the Caucasus. Andrey Antonovich had proven himself in numerous battles and was appointed deputy commander of the 1st Ukrainian Front. Thanks to Grechko's skillful redeployment of troops, the 3rd Tank and 38th Armies launched a powerful offensive and defeated the Germans in Kiev. In 1943, Grechko was promoted to the rank of General Colonel and was assigned to command the 1st Guards Army, which remained under his command until the end of the war. Grechko's troops participated in the liberation of Zhytomyr, Czechoslovakia, and Poland. Then, his army reached Prague. After the victory in the Great Patriotic War, the future Marshal Andrey Antonovich took command of the Kiev Military District. In 1953, he became the commander-in-chief of all Soviet military units in Germany. In June of the same year, he led the suppression of an uprising. Grechko also visited his native village, which was in a devastated state, completely destroyed. Andrey Antonovich helped the local people get back on their feet. After the war, thanks to his support, the village was quickly restored, with new houses, administrative buildings, and schools being built. In early 1967, Rodion Malinovsky held the position of Minister of Defense. However, he was not in favor of new technological directions, such as helicopters and space exploration, which Andrey Grechko was actively involved in. As a result, Grechko gathered around him many talented and young professionals eager to further develop the country. Malinovsky became ill and was hospitalized, never to return. Brezhnev appointed Grechko as the Minister of Defense, a position he held for 9 years. Grechko proved himself to be a demanding and principled leader, never tolerating people who were not in the right position. He carefully selected personnel, paying attention to their service record. For example, General Joseph Guzikovsky decided to revise the personnel structure and make it younger. He put forward a list of high-ranking officers for dismissal to replace them with younger ones. Grechko, reading the list, suggested that Guzikovsky himself head it, resulting in the general losing his position. Grechko highly valued the experience and merits of wartime veterans. Marshal Grechko was beloved and respected by Soviet troops. He took an interest in and supported the development of new military technology. Thanks to him, combat helicopters and modified tanks were added to the country's armament. He required soldiers to engage in sports to remain in shape at any moment. Under his direction, military towns were built, and officers could receive housing from the state. Military salaries increased, so there were no problems with feeding families or sending children to kindergarten. Thanks to Grechko, the country gradually rose from the ruins. New training centers were built, and military exercises and drills were constantly held. Officer ranks were highly valued, and Andrey Antonovich Grechko, Marshal of the Soviet Union, steadily advanced through the military career ladder. In 1955, Grechko reached the highest military rank, Marshal of the Soviet Union. Despite his high position, Grechko did not interfere with the KGB's activities. He believed that politics and the army were two different spheres. After receiving the title of Marshal in 1957, Grechko was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Ground Forces and simultaneously the first Deputy Minister of Defense of the USSR. He was awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union in February 1958 for his heroism and bravery in the fight against the fascists. In 1960, he became the head of the Combined Armed Forces of the Warsaw Pact countries. In 1973, he received a second Golden Star Medal. Grechko was a devoted fan of the CSKA football club and did more for the team than any other ministers. He even hosted the team at his house when they visited Kiev, and when Grechko was in the capital, he became more involved with the club. Thanks to his efforts, CSKA acquired not only a stadium and sports hall, but also a training base in Arkhangelskoye and other sports facilities. Regarding his personal life, Grechko was married to a woman who worked as a teacher, and they had a daughter, Tatiana. When Andropov took over as Minister of Defense, he tried to expand the influence of state security structures. Grechko, however, was opposed to this and slowed down the General Secretary's plans. Their relationship was strained. On April 26, 1976, Grechko returned from work to his dacha in good health, as usual. He went to bed and was found dead the next morning. His death came suddenly. There were no signs of violent death, and doctors could not determine the cause of his passing. They confirmed that Grechko was in excellent physical condition. His urn is now located in the Kremlin Wall on Red Square. This is the life of the Marshal of the Soviet Union, Andrey Antonovich Grechko. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Best wishes, and see you soon.